This is Roger Barrett launching me at the, who knows what, 93 Nats here. We're going to hopefully get the wings started during this tape. Oh, the tweener. I love it. I still can't believe these guys at the Nats that were judging didn't like this plane. I can't believe it. Like it already. Like it. Love it. Eat it. Take pictures of it to bed with you. Come on. It's a beautiful plane. Check it out. The tweener. Anyway, one of the reasons I'm showing this now is one of our programs that we're going to work on real soon, hopefully while we're waiting for paint to dry or whatever, we're going to put a 60 in this tweener, and we're going to go back and fly him again. Get rid of all the tune pipe nonsense. Put the 60 in and just see how much better he flies. And I'm sure it will fly better. It's just hard for me to believe they didn't like this airplane. It's unbelievable. I guess Borelli didn't vote for it or something. Who knows? Anyway. What a beautiful plane. I love it. Perfect bottoms, perfect everything. I'm not prejudiced, am I? Lousy triangle. Anyway, hey, the reason I'm saying this, now you notice when you watch these videos, you notice in the background I always have tapes playing. There's a reason for it. It's not just a random thing. You need some inspiration. You need a shop with some, you know, some pictures around it, give you some inspiration for a great, you know, I don't know what you would call it. You need to be inspired to do this stuff. I guess I do anyway. And one of the things that always inspires me is watching back at these old flights, and I'm getting ready to build a built-up wing. I have the ribs from Joe Adamusco, and I need some inspiration, and that's the reason for playing back a flight. And out of the corner of my eye, I can look at them and say, oh, man, these judges, they don't know what they're looking at. Now, can you imagine? Look at this flight. This flight did not make the top 5 cut. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. Anyway, I'm not a sore loser. I don't have sour grapes. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Grapes, grapes, grapes. Anyway, this was actually one of the planes I really did enjoy building. Of course, we have all the videos of building this plane. And one of the things I look for at this point in time, too, is how did I like the way this paint job presented in the air? How do I like all the things revolving around it? How did I like the look of the plane, the wheel pants, the canopies? Who knows what? I'm trying to get ideas for Strager here, trying to get ideas for my life, trying to get some ways of getting some money without having to work for it. But I don't buy lottery tickets. I just love, absolutely love George Foreman at 45 years old. Man, he's almost as old as me. Beats the other guy to a pulp, becomes the world champion, the oldest world champion of all time. I guess he's inspired me. But again, it's looking at the videos, having them pictures, I don't know what. Inspiration is always an important thing. At least to me it is. I don't know how other people feel. If you possibly can, get a VCR and a, you know, an old TV down in your workshop. Look at yourself fly, look at yourself build, whatever. There isn't much else on TV. I don't watch much else besides Discovery in 2020. That's about it. But these videos have been an instrument that I've put to, I hope I've put to good use anyway. And most of all, I hope I've documented what's happened in this event, what's happened in the past couple of years, all of what I'll just call nonsense, boy, because it sure is. And hope that we're looking forward to a brighter future. You know, the World Championships are over. Let's hope our future is bright. Nice plane. I love this plane.
Watch, don't get none out over the edge now. That's good. Don't go too fast.
No, it's Monday night. Brian, the Beast, is here, getting the end of his formers in. Got his tail out on the table here, but I'm getting sick of looking at tails. There's somewhere around here there's a horn. Getting ready for our little Monday night class.
In the corners now. Gotta get it in the corners. Let it run.
Okay, you getting your little hinge pockets in there? Just take your time. We're not having a race. Alright, we just ordered some pizza pies on Monday night session. What do you got going here, Jimmy? Nitrate. You got 6 coats of nitrate clear on here, and he's sanding it off. I don't know. This nitrate deal, I don't know, Jimmy. This is a big question mark. I don't know. We're going to be doing nitrate here or what?
I'm going to be seeing it in my sleep, I'll tell you that much.
Nitrate heaven. Time for pizza pie. Okay, now we're going to, on this tape, we're going to start the wing for Strega. Some of the things that, before you even start a wing, are handy to have. Now, tape 39 from last year's series has the footage of making wing ribs. We're not going to redundantly do that because Joe Adamusco has nicely made us up a set of ribs. He made a spare set when he made his wing. So we have a set of Pattern Master ribs. What we're going to do is take the Cardinal Plans, and what I do is I take the original Cardinal Plans, which were stolen from the Pattern Master plans, and I use those as a base, and then I make the modifications. This year's ship will have a little bit smaller flaps, a la Tsunami. It'll also have some other small different wingtip shapes and whatever. So having the Cardinal Plans, the Pattern Master plans, and I would suggest you even have Impact plans, SV11 plans, whatever, you can kind of compare all the things that are consistent in a good flying stunt ship, and one of them, believe it or not, is the ribs. If you go look at an Impact and an SV11 and a Pattern Master and whatever, the ribs are not that much different. There's other things that are different, but they're really a good basic formula, and we'll be working off what basically is Big Jim's Pattern Master numbers. Step one of this, as it always is I'm going to get this table whistle clean with the razor scraper, get out my old Cardinal Plans and some tracing paper, and make up the set of plans that I'm going to be using on this construction feature. Now, will also be, and of course, if you're following this whole series like many of the people that have been following this since 1990, one of the things you'll notice is we're going to make a foam wing plane. We're going to try to complete most of the Strega, the semi-scale plane, and then we're going to make kind of a traditional plane with a foam wing and a foam tail, and nothing too exciting as far as the aesthetics go. But Strega, we want to lay out a really exotic paint job and exotic who knows what. Anyway, just so you can get an idea roughly where we are. What I did is, between now and the last time we shot video, I made up some filler coat, and I was just putting on coat after coat of filler. The idea of that is, if you notice, if you follow through the way I do things, something is always drying and getting ready to be sanded while I'm working on something else. If you make a whole wing and a whole tail and then start tissuing it and filling it, you're going to go crazy. It's easier just to take the tail. Now, by the time I get a coat of filler a day on this, I'll be working on the plans, I'll be working on other things, working on this back porch some more. But I don't try to get everything ready for finishing. The finishing thing goes step by step by step by step, and I find that easier to do than to take the whole plane and put the whole plane into filler coat and the whole plane. Then you're banging into the tail, and my big fat belly bangs into the rudder and the elevators. And I don't care if you have a finishing friend or somebody that comes and holds the plane for you. It's a pain in the ass doing it that way. I like my way better, but of course, you know, it's a personal preference thing. Now, last but not least, I'm going to get all my parts that I need to make this wing in one piece. I want to have the rods, and I got those from Joe Adamusco, the machine plates from Midgley, some of the other little things that I've saved over the years that I'm using for checking center lines and stuff. Get all my equipment together, and I'm going to try to do that today or tomorrow so that next week after our Monday morning class, our Monday afternoon class, and we really had a good one. I think there's some footage on this tape. Right after that class, Tuesday morning, I can get right into doing a wing. And what I like to do is, when I'm going to do a wing, is start the wing and get right and get it done and get it out, get it off the jig. Typically, that takes either a weekend or 2 full days of work for me. And because I'm doing video, it might take 3. But I like to get that started, finished, and done, and then go on to the next step. I don't like to let it linger and linger. What happens is the wing sits out here on the table and it gets banged up, and people come over the house and, oh, let me see this, and, you know, annoying. Anyway, that's where we stand right now. We're going to get the plans out. We're going to start drawing some plans up. Now, I start with a set of old, not older, 89 Cardinal Plans. This is the 60 size Cardinal. One of the first things I would notice, and you know, when you pay Steve a lot of money to make a set of plans, he really does a nice job. One of the things you notice is the whole wing is shown in one piece. That's a big help when you're going to build a plan on rods. You'll also notice I got some copies of these plans. I got them last year, and they were reverse printed. That means, you know, somebody looked in a mirror at the photocopying shop. Now, see, I use the lines in the table to line up the plan. Tape the original plan in place first, let the rest hang off the table here. And actually, these are plans I don't want to sell because they are printed reverse. But for our purposes, this will be fine. It's like a Gene Schaefer plane. Actually, I just thought of, if anybody's building a left-hand Cardinal to fly like a Jerry Phelps or Schaefer plane, these plans would be fine. The thing, the lead-outs are shown going out the other way. Anyway, I'll get these taped down. Get out some Mylar. Mike Karavich gave me some Mylar tracing paper. I can get busy laying this right out. I really have to compliment Steve. Even as the years go by, these are just a classic set of plans. One of the best set of plans I've ever seen, period. And another point, a handy reference when you want to kind of re-kit your own plane, redesign your own plane. This is a good baseline, like having Nobler plans, a good baseline. Now you can see what's nice when you have friends like Mike Karavich. They wind up giving you a beautiful roll of paper. This is really high quality paper too. And you can see how nice it is for tracing, drawing, inking, penciling. I'll roll out a piece a little bit bigger than the plans here. In fact, the paper's so heavy you can't even roll it out. But what I'm trying to do now, and this is important, if you're going to build an ongoing series of planes, I guess Midgley is, and Borelli, whoever, one of the things that's nice to have is each year have a record of what you've changed on the plane, what got better and what got worse. You would think President Nixon would get sick of calling me. He's been dead for 3 years. He still keeps calling me to ask me things. I can't believe it. Anyway, put the roll of paper away. Get the other piece taped right on top. The point I wanted to make was, and it's an important point, it's not a small little point. Each year I have the plywood templates for the plane I made. I have the master root and the master tip rib. And I also have the 16th doubler, a copy of that. I also, if I do a built-up wing and I need a set of plans like I do now, what I have is a permanent record. So if I want to go back, for instance, and make a Tsunami or make a Red Baron or make a whatever, you have all the capability to make the exact duplicate of that plane. So by making a set of plans, and along the edge of the plans here I can list what did I change, how much did the wing weigh, you know, did Karen beat me to death that night, did who knows what. All the little notations. When I'm done building a wing, I can roll this up. Now, 3 years from now, I may want to make another Strega. Who knows? I may want to make another Bonzo Mobile or something. But if you don't have this, How big were the wingtips? What rib was at the tip? And you can make yourself a mess. So I'm going to tape this paper down and start my tracing. Now when I'm making a set of plans, I use one of these Sharpie fine point markers. Writes real nice on a Mylar. And I can just go over, copy all the things I want right off of here. Things I want to change, I can move them around a little bit, but it beats the hell out of starting in midair and just, you know, trying to come up with a new, whatever you want to call it, everything from scratch. I have the flaps, the original Cardinal stuff, all the wing stations and everything, so it's real handy having this. The Sharpie marker will write up right on this, then we can take the Cardinal plan out and we'll have a real plan of exactly what we want to do, and we could actually start building the wing. I also can check the ribs that Joe Adamusco sent, and these really are nice, like everything Joe does. They're just beautiful. Alright, I'm just going to lay this out and then trace in the rib stations where I want them. Now one of the things we have to take into consideration, this is a thinner body by about 1/4 of an inch. It's thinner than a normal Cardinal because of the design of the airplane and the way we're building it. So what we want to do is we want to move the 2 middle ribs out. What we want to wind up with, let me see if I can put this so it makes sense. We want to have the first rib right underneath the body side. We don't want to have the rib out here or inside. So when the plane is finished, it just falls over. When the plane is finished, you want to have the first rib drop right in underneath the fuse side, if you possibly can. And so what we're going to do is plot that position out here and then move all the ribs out just a little bit so that, you know, we can maintain that integrity in by the middle of the body. This is a good time too to make sure you have the right width of the horn so that the horn fits through the body. You have a little room for your flap fillet, and also no sense drawing up the plans for the flaps and everything and you have the horn at the wrong size. So that's the next step. Now you can see the difference in the ribs, how they start to stagger out. So what we're going to do is use 17 ribs instead of 19. We'll save the weight of 2 ribs. So it's a little bit different plan form. It requires a little bit of spacing out. What I'll do, I'll just transpose this now out onto the other wing and hopefully finish this up tonight and have one more little piece of the puzzle put together here. Hey, what's that on television? Looks like the tweener. Hey, looks like me. I don't know how to fly. The tweener. Okay, we got that finished, and we'll pick this up tomorrow whenever we get a chance. We got our little emblem. You notice we have a little less span. We're looking for 60 inches of span. Mustang. Hey, take a minute off of this video and just share this with me. I got the chair rails up, got the fan in. Oh man, I got all this tiling done, all these little stepways and everything. What a pain in the ass. Anyway, this is just to take a break here, show you what I've been working on in between working on Strega. Now, I don't know if you're going to see it in this picture, but there's some beautiful drapes. My cousin we were up till 2 in the morning last night making drapes here. And of course the Big Jim doll, the Greenaway doll, the Artnowski doll, my wife's doll collection, the Debbie Borelli furniture. Boy, I'll tell you, hey, love this house. Alright, got some time today, a little bit of time here I can work on Strega. Hope you don't mind sharing the progress in this house renovation deal with me. We did a lot, got a lot done. We're going to have a Christmas party for friends of distinction here. Anyway, share it with us. We're going down to the shop. All right, now today I really put the finalization on my plans. I have this all drawn up for now. We're not going to start building a wing today, but what I am going to do, and this is a good point I'd like to make. What's nice about having a tail and filler now, this tail's been drying a couple of days. It's got 2 coats of talc filler on it, and I really don't have enough time to start the wing construction because I'm going to be going away this weekend. I'm not going to really start this until after the class on Monday. But I have made up all my parts. I have all the ribs over there sitting ready to go. All the extra horns, made up the extra parts I need. I'll try to get the bell cranks and lead outs joined and made up today. And I may even get some time, I'll sand out this coat of filler. Now that's a real important point to remember, because a lot of people get to a point like you get all ready to build on a Saturday, and the only thing you can do is you come down, you paint filler on a tail, and now what do? Now you got to wait for it to dry. So if you always have something drying and something you're working on and parts you can make up. Remember I talked about in the beginning the idea of making up a kit. What a great idea. Well, that's what we're basically going to try to get done today. We have a little bit of time this morning, a little bit of time this afternoon, and at the end of our work day. And what we'll try to do all small projects that'll contribute to the fact that once we get this wing all set to go, the plans, the rods, the ribs, and everything, we can knock it out as soon as possible. Now, one thing I've noticed is, and boy, this is really a lesson to be learned here, is if you can let filler dry an extra couple of days, boy, you're so far ahead of the game, it's unbelievable. And I can see this has been drying, I think 3 or 4 days. If you look how quickly that's sanded out, that's finished. That's finished. I'm always using a block at this stage in the sanding, a block for the whole thing. I'm going to sand this out off camera. I'm not even going to work on the other stuff today because I want to get, if I can get this coat of filler sanded out, I'll get another coat of filler on today. Maybe even get the clear sprayed. This is a big advantage because I'm moving along. There's always something drying. Always something I'm working on, drying, working on. When you build that, I've said it so many times, ridiculous. You build up a whole plane and you get the whole plane in filler, man, you're looking at 2 days of sanding it out. Forget about it. When you can do this, it's in your lap. I can go sit on a couch and do this. I can do this while I'm on the phone. Hey, what an advantage to be able to do it this way. Okay, now I don't know if you can see this up real close with the macro lens, but you can see I only spent about 30 seconds really doing this one elevator, and this side is already sanded, really sanded fine enough. I'm using 320 paper. While I'm sanding filler, 320 is about right. 220 will leave scratches, and 400 will take you all day to sand it, and it'll just clog up. It's a gray paper. This is one of my, let's see what it is, Tri-Amite free cut paper. Yeah, warning, don't eat pizza. Yeah, we know. Anyway, if you get an idea just how much time you should be putting into sanding. Now this has 3 coats of clear. We put 3 coats of clear on it over the tissue, and then a coat of 2 coats of filler without sanding in between coats. So this actually has 5 coats of dope. Now Mike Costello stopped by today, and he's got, I wanted to show this on the video, he's got this little pad made. And you can see, because we always talk about making a crutch, an all-American crutch with the wood between the mounts. And what he did, he lowered this 1/8 of an inch. What'd you do, lower this 1/8 of an inch, Mike?
Yes, lowered.
Okay, so he can make up for, we're going to make pads up for this. We'll do that off camera. That's common stuff.
So that's
so he maintains the center line. But, most important thing, wood going side to side and pads under the motor. And connecting the motor mounts to the wing. Job 1. Anyway, looking good. What are you going to have, a little FP in here?
It's a little FP25.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Got a little muffler for that? Is that normal muffler sizes, or is that like...
It comes with a...
Now notice, I got the first coat of silver sprayed on tonight. Notice how I got the little pieces of wire in the tubing, and it's a nice convenient way to hang it while it dries. Got the stab in silver now. Took a preliminary weight and we're just under 3 ounces. So boy, we're getting good weights on this thing with the lightened up trailing edge. And of course, you know I always like to weigh things in silver. Now, we'll try to get a bell crank made up today. Try to get, maybe even get the push rods made up today. Making that constant list of little things we want to do. Get little things in order so next Tuesday we can start this wing. Now, what I want to do as the next step, this is Monday, and what I did Friday, the end of the day Friday, I took, and if you do it this way, this will save you so much work, it's unbelievable. You take 2 quarts of silver, Sig silver, scoop out the bottom, mix it real good. You really have to spend a lot of time because all that junk sits in the bottom. 2 quarts of Sig silver, 3 quarts of 3608S, some fisheye killer, and some Flexol. Make a big giant batch. In this case, I made up 2 gallons, almost 2 gallons. I got 1 gallon and 3/4 and some in a spray gun. Some I've already used. You really need more than 2 gallons. You need a giant way to put this, a big coffee can, a big jar, or whatever. Now, the reason for putting it all in one big mix like this, and what I do from time to time is pour this back and forth. You want to start off with the silver that you know it's going to spray at a certain, let's say it's 30 psi, 20 psi. I like 25 as a starting point. Well, now you can come and look at this silver, the way it dried. And if it dries, now this we sprayed this Friday, this is Monday, this has been drying 3 days. If this was still hard to sand or chewing gummy or whatever, now you know, put a little more thinner in the paint. If this sands out like butter and it's totally dry and perfect after drying for 2 or 3 days, and the minimum amount of time you want silver to dry is 2 or 3 days, we want to sand this all down with 600 right now, get it down to where it's almost bare wood. You can see we have dry. I'll put this on the macarons, it's all dry spots. But now, what we'll do is fine-tune our silver with a little more thinner, a little more paint, a little more clear, whatever. Now, what would happen is, if you get this sanded down to where you have a lot of dry spots, you're going to want to give this another coat of clear. And then let it dry and put another coat of silver on, depending on how far you go through. Now, there's other videos available that have extensive sanding of silver. We're going to cover this once or twice in the process here, because this is the area, this is something I think I have developed more than anybody else. Number 2, it works every time. It always works. The plane never comes out 90 ounces if you sand off all the silver the last time. Well, the last time through, you leave the silver on and do it one of the colors where you want the silver on. But the silver shows you all the mistakes. It doesn't let you be deluded thinking you're going to have a concourse finish and all of a sudden, oh, the thing looks terrible. I paint, I'm by the hinge, Everybody knows when you paint the silver on, it's going to look terrible. I have mistakes in here that I never thought I had. The tips don't look perfectly round. Where the glass ends, I have little dry spots. In by the fillet, there's little tunnels and gouges. Well, now I'm going to sand this. I'm going to sand it wet with Sikkens, and I'll give it the second coat of silver. Typically, 3 to 4 coats of silver, each one sanded completely off, where just the little specks are showing, will be enough. Any other way than doing it that way, what happens is you build up a tremendous amount of finish on the plane, and it gets heavy. It gets tail heavy, and then you need nose weight, and you need, the vertical CG is wrong. So even though this is a labor-intensive thing, this is one thing on the plane where it's like, if you pay the price now, you know the plane is going to be a top quality finish, and it's not going to be heavy at the same time. And you have to make that personal decision to do that in the silver coats. And the easiest way I know of, now one of the traps you can get yourself into, trap number 1, using up old paint that's a year or 2 old. Gone, man. Don't do that. Give that paint to somebody else that's making ringmasters. Get a brand new batch. Get all the ingredients in. Shake it up every time you use it. Shake it up as you're spraying it. Don't just let it sit in a can. It all sits to the silver all sits to the bottom. By doing it this way, you spend less time on the silver, and you can spend more time on other things that are more productive as far as making a plane, the paint job, the electrosets, or whatever it is that you want to do. So again, I've labeled up the paint clearly so I know what's what. I don't confuse this. I've gotten rid of all of last year's paint so I'm not sitting here wondering, is this the old stuff? Is this the new stuff? I'm going to mix them together. You know, for the cost of 2 quarts of paint, it's crazy to risk your whole winter knowing you might wind up with a chewing gum finish. So I'm going to sand this now. This is a Monday. This is sat for 2 days. If you try to sand it the day after you spray it, the odds are good it's going to be a pain in the neck. 2 days, it's usually good. And if you can afford it, and this is the whole logic. See, if you understand the logic here, this is all easy. I have other things to do today. If for instance, we were going to work at the quarry today, I would let this dry another day. Because if you let this dry a week or even 2 weeks, oh my God, this sands by itself. You don't even have to put the paper on it and walk away and it sands it. The longer you let paint dry, the better it sands, the easier it sands. So the idea here is when we're going to build a wing starting tomorrow, we're going to start the wing. While we're building the wing, 2-3 days, whatever it takes, the silver can be drying. Then when I go back to do the second sand out or the third sand out, it's as easy as pie. Same thing on the wing. When I put the wing in silver, I'll start doing something totally different. So I'm not trying to sand it the day after I spray it. Sand it, spray it. And then I get into that thing where it takes forever to sand silver. Silver should go quick. When you let it dry and you have the M600 working in your favor, it should go relatively quickly. It shouldn't be all day. It should be maybe, I'd say an hour to sand out this tail would be the most I would be willing to spend. The first sand out. The second sand out, I'm going to be a little more careful, maybe an hour and a half. And the third time I sand this out, maybe it'll take 2 hours and I'll get in all the corners with folded up sandpaper and everything. Just so Borelli's impressed. But anyway, if you understand all this, it all makes sense and you'll save a tremendous amount of time in finishing. Up to this point in the finish, nothing should have taken a lot of time. But from this point on, everything starts to take more and more time because now we can see all the little mistakes and we can make it perfect. You also have the option now of weighing it each time you put it in silver or sand it out and see how much you added, how much you took off. When the tail is in silver, a PM tail in silver ideally should be 3 ounces, 84 grams. If it's 3.5, you don't throw it away, you still use it. If it's 4, maybe you don't want to use it. Maybe, I don't know. Good thing to think about. Anyway, I'm going to get on with this. The whole idea here is if you understand the mixing of the silver, fine-tune it as you go. Now this will be enough silver for the whole plane. But I'll be fine-tuning it. As I'm spraying it, if it dries a little chewing gummy, I'll add a little thinner. I'll reduce the pressure. If it dries crisp and beautiful, I'll hug it and kiss it goodnight. I won't touch it. I'll love it. And I'll know at the end of this deal that I've put on a maximum of 2 quarts of silver. I don't want to put on 2 gallons of silver either. I mean, even though I'm sanding it off, I want it to be a human amount. I don't want to spend 800 hours sanding this out. What that would tell me is I should have spent more time sanding out the raw wood. So, let's get on with it. I'll sand this. The technique has been shown many times on video. I won't put an hour of video of this, just to give you a rough idea, but it's that logic that you need to understand. If some part of the plane is always drying while another part is being worked on, once you learn how to work that way, you find out you get twice as much done with half the effort, and your wife will still love you, and who knows what else. Maybe you'll even win the concourse. Except if you're Bob Lampione. Then you would definitely win. Hey, Bobby, I still love you. I don't care what Joe Ortiz says about you. Now, step 1 is I get out the oldest, junkiest towel I have, because this towel is going to get ready for the wash by the time we're finished. Take any given piece, look it over, says look for flaws. Maybe I ought to do this on a macro lens here when we're finished and show some of the little spots. There's some little spots in here that need some attention. And most important, is it dry? If it looks like you see little dry spots, boy, you know you have it made, because now you haven't put too much on. If the first time you spray this it looks shiny and finished, you've put too much paint on. Sand some of it off. Now, I guess we've gone through this many times already, as you can buy these bottles in auto supply stores. Windex bottles melt after a certain amount of time, a month or so. If you pour the M600 into a saucer, what happens is it evaporates so fast that half of it goes in the air and you breathe it in instead of using it. A spray bottle is first choice. You want to get some clean paper towels, definitely Bounty around. this bottle will be a big help to you. And you want to get a whole bunch of 600 sandpaper, that's for sure. This is the 600 that I have been using. It's 3M, wet or dry, triamite paper. It's 600. The grit, CA3 is the code. Again, what I like to do is cut it up into little squares, just big enough for the job that I'm going to do. Take all your watches, rings, jewelry off. If you have any cuts on your hand, get ready for them to start drying out and hurting. Hey, this is macho stuff. Now, I just wanted to show this real quickly. I got a little wood block. It has a little bit of an angle on one side so I can get in corners. I want to give a little dissertation here of just how long this should take. See, what people have in their mind is that this should take, 6 hours or something if they do it some secret high-tech way. This is you can feel now as the M600 evaporates, what happens is it starts to dry up and the thing starts to drag. You know you got to apply more. As soon as it starts to drag and load up, just add a little M600. If you try doing this with water or some other medium beside M600, you want to keep it to a minimum because it's going to sink in and it's going to bloat and float out the wood and expand the wood and whatever. And every once in a while, just wipe off the residue. Now you start to see all your little problems come through. Little glitches, all the sanding scratches, all comes through. You know, the first time you sand silver out, you see there's all kinds of glitches and gotchas and things in there that you didn't know were there, and you wonder where they all came from. It's unbelievable. So now you want to get just as much of this sanded out with the block as you can. Where there's curves, you want to get a little foam block or do it by hand. Up around the hinges here, you want to get the ruler in there, that little steel ruler. Keep all the edges nice and square. Here's the part that's unsanded. And you see these little dry spots. Once you get a feel for this, and once you do it once, boy, you don't have to do this 100 times, and you'll be an expert at it. And you'll figure out where all the gains are and what makes it easy and what makes it a pain in the neck. And you can go right through it. You can just finish the whole thing off in a very short amount of time. Now, the old Machinist Ruler, what the Machinist Ruler lets you have that's better than having a piece of wood is you get those nice corners and edges. So right in here we want to get corners and edges, and right in here around the ball link, places you can use the Machinist Ruler. A soft foam pad, this is like a sponge almost. This is what women use for their fingernails to do this. This works good if you want to do tips. You just wrap the sandpaper around it. You can see I've got one side done in a matter of 5-10 minutes. I'm just going to do the rest of these off camera and we'll get into spraying, getting that second coat of silver on here. Now here's a really good tip you can use. I noticed as I started the second side, I have a little bubble here. Just looks like a little bubble the size of a pinhead. When you have a little bubble like that, what it means is the tissue is not sticking down to the wood well. So what I like to do is get out an old number 11 X-Acto knife, put a bunch of little holes in the bubble, and I'll hit that with thin CA and just rub it with the Q-tips. The more bubbles you can take care of now, and you're going to get them no matter how careful you are. The sooner you can take care of them, the better in the finish it'll be. I also see, looks like I put my fingernail in it right here. It may be that I've got a little spot that I want to hit with red lead too at this time. Maybe, maybe not. I'll sand it out first. Now it seems like I got half of an elevator out of one little piece of sandpaper. And now I've used up, see what I'm doing to save sand, I'll use this corner, any of the spots of the paper that aren't worn out or clogged up, I'll just keep finding new spots for the sandpaper. You get a little extra mileage out of the paper, but you're basically going to use one little piece of sandpaper about every time you do the equivalent area of an elevator. At least I do anyway. And it doesn't pay to try to get 1,000 miles a gallon out of sandpaper. Sandpaper is a lot cheaper than whatever the alternative is of building a plane, and then somewhere down the road it's either too heavy or you can't win the concourse with it. And you notice as soon as you put a new piece of sandpaper on here how it starts cutting twice as fast. Doesn't pay to try to save sandpaper on this deal, or M600 for that matter. It's the labor that you're trying to save, labor, and get the quality of the job up. Now what I do, another trick, another tip, whatever it is, all through the sanding process, you got to keep the part clean. You can't let this stuff build up and dry. It turns to, you know. So at the end of all the block sanding, I'll take the piece, this is the worn out piece of sandpaper, and just go over the whole thing lightly without a block. Now what that does, it helps put a little radius on all these edges and corners and everything that you don't get with a block. The trailing edge, the tips. Believe me, once you have this technology of sanding the silver down, and there was a time in our hobby when this was a big secret. I'm sure this was not written about in other magazines. There was, or magazines, pro-stun products or whatever, who knows. But this is certainly a really excellent way of finishing. And it shows all your little mistakes, and you can correct them right now. Now I'll do the rest of this off camera. I have the other pieces to do here, but just so you have as many tips or as many tricks as I can put on here, because every time I go to the Nats and I see more and more planes in the front row, man, I just get happier and happier thinking how aggravated some of these guys years ago that were keeping everything a secret must be that now virtually anybody has access to good finishing information. I just love it. And years ago you'd see these planes with the beautiful finish and they were light and you wondered how the guy did it, and it's, yeah, secret stuff. So nice to blow them out of the water. Now a little macro, of course you can see what happens to your hands. A little macro lens action here. You notice how you get the corners with a block and it always leaves the little low spots. You see up here, these are all the little low spots. Now the next coat will fill that in, and hopefully the third coat will be perfect. Usually where you have a tip joining, you're always going to have a funny edge that you want to blend in. Around the hinge pockets, here's that fingernail mark. Now the next coat of silver will definitely fill that in. Okay, I'll shoot the rest of this off camera unless I all of a sudden realize I haven't put something on a video. Keep in mind I'm trying to get the job done and put all the tips and tricks on here. And only by doing this in a very crude way that I do are you really going to get to know whatever it is that I know that keeps winning me concourse awards. Get an idea of what the elevator looks like after it's sanded out. Here's an important little tip. Now you can see on this elevator we've block sanded this out, and there really is a low gully in here. So what I'm going to do is get a little red lead and a razor blade or a spatula, put a little red lead on that, and while I'm sanding out the tail, this can be drying, and I'll hopefully have that filled in one or two, more sandings out. Now, you really don't ever want to use this any more than you have to, but this, I apparently put a dent in this with my bare hands. I don't know. And while I'm sanding out the other, I'll sand out the stab. This will be drying, and I can just go over this with the same sandpaper, M600 and everything. Hopefully that'll get it more flattened out. Now, if you think eventually somewhere down the road you're going to be building planes that don't have any mistakes in them, I don't think so. what happens is you get better and better at fixing mistakes. You really can't foam and wood, and you can't help putting your fingernail in it once in a while. Now that little spot up on a stab, there was a little spot up here. Well, where the heck was it? Right there. I may as well fill that in right now. Anything you can fill in now, the sooner you can fill it in, the better. Now I just walk around this and look for any bad spots, and I do have a few. I might have a few that are going to need some nitrous stain. I see one here. I don't know how that got there. Anyway, when you sand, I also see a couple of bubbles up here. Let's get this on the video on the macro lens. You can see these little bubbles right in here. Again, I'll take the number 11 blade, poke it, hit it with some CA. Early on in the finish, you want to get any soft spots in the finish. Now, because we're over foam, we want to get it on and wipe it right off. We don't want to have that CA, or obviously the other choice is use the CA that doesn't hurt foam. I don't have any of that handy here, but we want to get at, the idea here is get at all the little bad spots while you can. Now you can see over here, where the heck's that bad spot here? It's on the top. You can see there's a little spot here I want to fix. Some spots down here I'll try to fix. Right here I have a low spot. Anyway, I'm going to work this up. I'll get most of this done off camera, and we'll get back to this when it's ready to sand the silver. And wherever you have a bubble, this is a great time. Get 100 little. And it's the lint in there that kicks it off, so it will keep it from attacking the foam, hopefully. And if necessary, we'll hit that with a little red lead later. Storing, well, you have obviously, but it'll comes down to the what is this hobby, you know? I took it all apart. And, now the last thing I'll do is I have a couple of spots on here. I'll touch these up with nitrous stain. Go have some lunch. It's like lunchtime now. While that's drying, and I'll come back, sand a nitrous stain. And we'll be ready to spray the second coat of silver on here. Remember, the final thing, go over the whole part by hand. Get off the last little bit of rough edging and everything. Now you can see how filthy this towel becomes. One of the good things to do right now is take this while everything's dry and throw this in a washing machine. Try to get it in with your wife's, you know, nice lingerie and underwear and bras and stuff. It'll really give them a nice metallic tint. Seriously, don't put them in with your wife's underwear. Put them in with your own underwear. Now we got a couple of spots here. I'm going to do the same old trick. Get a little nitrous stain on it with a razor blade. Don't put any more on than you have to. Look around here. Now I can see out here there's a spot. Just look around here, see if we have any other really bad spots. Oh yeah, we have just one on top of the fillet. Probably won't see this. This will be inside the fuselage, but I'll put it up here anyway. Now when you sand this area here, you almost have to do it with a block to get the contour just right. A little bit over here too. Again, you want to minimize the amount of this you use. You really don't want to go blowing on a half a tube of this stuff. Alright, after lunch we'll come back, sand this out, and do the silver. Just get an idea, this is how much sandpaper we used. Yeah, 6 sheets of sand, 6 little squares of sandpaper, 1 paper towel, the M600 and some nitrous stain. Well, it's nice to be rich so you can afford a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch. Man alive. Glad we're having pizza tonight. All right, that red light should be ready to sand. Now, it's important when you sand red lead wet, you know, sand it with a block. And don't over sand it. Don't sand it until there's nothing left. Now, before we go and spray these silver, I want to wipe them down real good with M600, and then take my little, and I'm using tool bits, but you can use 1/8" wire, as a way of holding them while I'm spraying them. Now, remember that little fingernail mark we had in here? If you're real careful, you can get it out in one shot. The next coat of silver should make that. Yeah, that's gone. Should make it go away. And the fussier you are, the longer this is going to take, but the further up into the, closer to the front row you're going to get every time. So if they can't find any mistakes in the plane, they got to put you in the front row. Now, I just wanted to show this. This is the hardest area, I think, on a whole airplane to get right, so that the fillet follows that contour just perfectly smooth, and then when you run the fillet along here, it'll be perfect. So what I'm going to do is use a real big block to pick up the high spots here, and just sand real carefully. This will probably leave a lot of red lead on there, but I want to get that contour just perfect if I can. Got to impress that Borelli, man. He's just coming up the ranks so fast. Pretty soon he's going to kick my ass in too. Remember that leading edge bubble? Completely gone now. And then, of course, the final thing, dress everything off without a block. And that'll just get the last little blend in. Now you only have the low spot. Alright, this will be the final wipe off, and we're ready to shoot some silver. And it's really a nice day out there. It's surprisingly nice for a November day here in Jersey. Clean everything up, get all the fingerprints off. You notice I washed my hands, try to get as much of that silver gook off my hands, only so I don't get it into the final finish here. Try to get all the bad spots. Each time through now, we're going to be touching up all these little imperfections, and we hope we're going to get this to be a, front row plane. That's the goal we always have. Front row, let everybody start off by having to catch you instead of you catching them. I like it that way. Now, the way I have my spray gun set up, I have one gun here that's dedicated totally to silver. Never take the silver out of the gun now, hopefully, unless Midgley comes here. And there's still some silver in here from before, so all I have to do now is plug in the compressor, shake this up real well. I know I have the compressor already set to the right pressure, and go outside and spray. Still set from the last time we sprayed. The paint's the same. Hopefully the temperature's the same. We can get out there and get this. Now it's just a beautiful day out here for spraying. Now, because I have this paint pre-mixed, once I get that gallon fine-tuned in, all I have to do is constantly mix it. Give it a little shake in between parts. Now, a lot of times this tip will clog up. Just take it off, soak it in thinner. Looks like I won't even have to adjust the gun. Always put a little extra on the edges if you can, on the tips. Just wiggle this around a little bit. Of course, this is only the second coat. We'll try to get on a relatively nice, thick, smooth coat. And then the next coat we'll try to get on really thin once we have, because don't forget we're using this for filler. You might want to look at how I'm holding this. And then the last thing, I take my thumb off and spray this piece. And you have the piece done. That's about the easiest way I know of to get it done. You might want to put a little extra on the red lead areas. If you see they're still sinking down low. Let's see, we got one on this side here if I can get a... We have that little area there. I'll try to get a little extra on that. Give me some extra. You're using this like filler to sand into. If you look at how I have my thumb, it makes it real easier. Real easy. Extra on the edges. Last thing, take your thumb off. Do the edge. Piece of cake. Tonight we're going to have our combination pizza gang mafia meeting, building session, wife swapping club, whatever you want to call it. Hope to have the boys over tonight, and they can check out my handiwork. Again, I'll try to shoot a little video of what we're doing on these classes. We're going to have Scott Smith and his group down here soon, I hope. And anybody else, of course, you're invited down to share everything we can deprive you of, your morality, your pizza. Come on down, have pizza at Wendy's. Get fat, get ugly. All right, now you see what's handy here is I'm holding this by the fillet. Makes for a real nice little handle. And since we're going to do the fillets on the plane, we really don't even care if they're even. Beautiful day. This paint ought to dry up. Leave it outside for half an hour. It should be beautifully dry. Now I noticed that bubble's gone. All the low spots are gone. We're really in outstanding shape here. This is really a nice tail, and it's really light. Sucker is still under 3 ounces. I'm impressed. Now the last thing I might want to do here, let's see if I can do it this way. Grab it by the horn, since we're not going to paint the horn. Yes! And of course any dope you get in by the foam, it melts the foam instantly, so that makes it even more of a challenge. All the edges, hinge line edges, always get an extra coat. Fillet edges, anything that's an edge gets an extra coat. Tips get an extra coat. Now we can actually put this aside to dry. Next couple days, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, we'll come back and work on this. We still have some work to do on the house. So we'll just keep busy and don't try to rush the silver. This part of it is where the front row planes get made, right here. Right here and then the buffing out. That looks That looks perfect. Let's see, we'll put this aside to dry here. A good way to hold a stab is just vice grip the horn. And because the weather is so outstanding out there, this should dry beautifully. Now, like I said before, get rid of all the old sandpaper. Important point, get the towel into the laundry. Otherwise you wind up using 1,000 towels. That's the only job I need to have my table little cushion protected. So you use up all these old towels. I'll clean my hand. I got about an hour, maybe an hour and a quarter. I'm going to work on a control system, get a couple little parts made up before the gang gets here. The gang that couldn't shoot straight. Now, one final tip, and this is a good idea. While my hands are all dirty and I'm all dirty, I'm going to shake up the silver I already have mixed and fill the gun so that the next time I go to use this, I don't have to get my hands all dirty. I'll already have the paint in the gun, and the compressor's already set. I can just go right out and shoot it. That's the beauty of having a nice amount of material here, where we have way more than a gallon. We have this much more than a gallon mixed. So, and now if this paint, if that coat dries up chewing gummy, add a little thinner and let it dry longer. Those are the two key things. Now again, what I'm trying to do is any little gap of an hour, 2 hours, or any small amount of time that I have that's not being put to use, what I'm trying to do is make up parts so that once I get this table set up with the wing, I don't like to leave the wing in a jig for a year. I like to get it in a jig, get it sheeted, get the blocks in, controls in, and get it out of the jig. The reason for that is we have people over the house constantly, and while it's in a jig, it's susceptible to somebody sitting on it, dropping things on it, eating a pizza on it, whatever. So what I'm going to try to do is make up the push rod, both of the push rods in fact, all the control parts, get everything soldered and polished and ground out and whatever, so that when we go to do the wing, I can just slide the controls right in. I'll be one step ahead of the game. I spent about a half an hour. I made up some hardware parts for the plane, belt cranks and lead outs. I just want to mention one thing real appropriate here. This is some footage I got from Walt Russell, and I'll probably put this on the end of one of the videos. These are his school kids out in Washington State, and he's got a bunch of them, and they're doing real good, and he sent me a real nice video. He dedicated it to me, in fact, me and Midgley, but mostly me, not much Midgley. Anyway, and he showed these kids, you know, working on their planes, and they sure look like they're having fun, and some flying that he's done with his Cardinal. He's got a 60 Cardinal. So maybe on the end of one of these tapes, when I get to a point, I'll put this Walt Russell footage on here. It's really nice. Now, we're waiting for the gang that couldn't make belt cranks straight to get here. So in the meantime, I'm just reviewing a video, get a look at it, and we'll show it to all the troops tonight as they come in. All right, if it's Monday night, Brian Kiefer must be sanding. Come on, baby, sand. Look at this guy. Go to town, baby. Always hold the paper on a 45-degree. That's it. Otherwise, you pick up the edge. Okay. We're going to get some dope on. Maybe we'll even get this joint tonight. Breathe in as much of that dust as you can. It makes you real macho. You'll get to look like me when you get old. When you get 50, you won't be able to breathe anymore. Anyway, we're going to try to get some silver on Jimmy's wing. These two early birds are here. Get some silver on that wing, get Brian's thing joined up tonight. We'll be smoking. All right, Carlos is here. We invited him for pizza. You can see we had plenty of pizza, too. All right, tell us how you stripped this all down. This is like a 2-year-old plane, 3-year-old plane?
Yeah, it's a 2-year-old plane, and basically the finish just came off, the paper came off because we tried to skip on the dope. So, yeah.
Okay.
So the finish basically came off with the paper in most places. In some places we still have some sanding to go, but...
Right, and you still have to sand it back down to raw wood. Well, like this here, why you just could sand this right off?
Actually, this is not doesn't have much paint here, but in some places the plane was very heavy.
Yeah,
And,
this is like real. Well, you'll definitely make it lighter if you get all the paint, because as you take
Yeah,
the paint,
right
you
now
take some wood too.
just basically only the flaps have paint. Everything else is clean.
Okay. So you'll be in the pro stunt ranks next year here.
Pro stunt run. You're right.
Next thing you'll get a tuned pipe and you'll be all set.
Well, we can make provisions for it.
Don't you dare. Oh my God. All right, that looks good.
Well, let's
Listen.
see. Thank you.
Some of the other things we got. Jimmy's got his wing in silver, as if we didn't spray enough silver today. Jimmy's got the wing in silver, flaps in silver. What else is in silver? Elevators are in silver. Whole world's in silver. You guys got the wing almost ready to join over there. Boy, a lot of things are getting done here for a bunch of guys eating pizza. Not too bad. Walt Russell's video, we're playing it over and over. We're going to wear his tape out on him. Pizza time!
Is it your soda?
All right, we're trying to do a little repair for Carlos here.
Is this your soda?
Quick and dirty, quick and dirty. He's got a hole in the foam wing, and this is a typical thing that happens when you have wheel pants. And what typically happens is you hit a bump, and the wheel pants go up through the foam wing, and you have a hole. Now we're making a plug. A plug is a very easy way. Let's not get this soda out of here. You have to make a piece that's a little bit bigger. Let's hope the grain goes in the same direction. Okay? And the way this works is this part here has an angle. We cut it on an angle. And this piece, see if you can zoom in on that. So it has an angle on that. And so when you drop the piece in, how did we have it? We want the grain going the same way. You really want the grain going the same way. Now you can look and see, well gee, that's not too bad. We got to make this piece here. I got to get another piece.
Maybe if you just cut a little bit, almost.
No, I'll make another piece. I'll just take a... We got plenty of scrap wood. Not like we're saving money on wood here. You're an expensive guy to do business with.
So we lose the bay window from another dollhouse, that's all.
So we'll just cut Karen's dollhouse up. Boy, Debbie's going to tell Karen I'm cutting her dollhouse up here. Now before we glue it, we'll take and dump it out. But the idea is to cut...
Yeah. You see.
Okay, no matter where you have to make a plug has to be a reverse curve. Now I'll just get another piece of scrap. We got plenty of scrap. It needs to be this size.
That will fit. Oh.
No. We're making another... Jeez, Carlos, give me a break. We're making another piece an 1/8 inch bigger.
It's possible.
Yeah. That's the trouble with half these kits that they make. You know, they give you a little, you know, you see a landing gear for a wing, and you
It fits.
the tab.
Not perfect. We'll get it fitting perfect, though. Let's see. We need to go... You can see what it is. It's pretty much just... We made a bigger piece, and it's just like a cork. It fits in the hole. Now, the other thing you want to do, now that you have it in the hole, is trace where level is, and then you can cut off all the extra material that's
On the
inside.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to have that big,
Gotta do the whole thing.
big ugly thing down in there. You can see that. We know this is the outside of this hole. So many times you get a hole in a plane and it makes you crazy. So cut a little bit extra off of there.
This way, if you sand in a little bit too deep, you got some more meat to work with.
Right, you don't want to make it a 1/64 of an inch.
That's the old on the top and in the hole plug at the same time, yeah.
Okay, now you can see we can get it down to where we're gonna cut everything off except leaving the line. So that'll just give us enough to block sand off. We'll just cut this down to the line, drop it in place. Very good way. We got to put this on a crash repair video too. Especially if you have gear in a wing. Boy, when you have gear in a wing, the wheel pants always wind up somewhere where you don't want. Where's that big? Oh, we're using the knives for cutting before.
Cutting the pizza with.
Yeah. Not cutting a pizza. We were doing Jimmy's silver. You think a man with my money, I could have a handle for my knife. Bet Ted Fancher has a handle for his knife.
I'm gonna make sure when you retire, Pampa will give you a silver handle.
So silver handle, right?
With the
Christmas
engraving
is
on.
coming. Send me a set of knives. Actually, Jimmy gave me a nice set of knives from China.
Were they useful for anything?
Yeah, useful. I use them all the time. I don't leave them out because I don't want anybody confiscating them.
Because they are illegal on discounters, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're automatic knives.
switchblades. Okay, so we're just trying to leave enough wood on. You know the idea, just leave enough
It can be
sticking up.
sanded, yeah.
Okay, where's that CA? Is this the CA that doesn't hurt foam?
Yeah, that's the thin, the other stuff's the thick.
Let's use the thick. This open?
Yes.
One time I was doing this and I press and poop right in. There's 30 guys here laughing at me. Hey, what the hell does he know about doing anything?
That's when he discovered the angle.
Well, the angles work great. This is a great tip. There's nothing that can't be broken, that can't be fixed. We're going to make a commitment right now to fix that 900 sweeper just so we can drive people in the hobby crazy with that thing.
Let's get a picture of that over here.
Now let this sit, let it dry. At the plane?
Yep, the Plain and Windy's right hand, the Sweeper 900, will be resurrected. It's now sitting in a lawn and leaf bag in Big Jim Greenaway's backyard.
Jimmy, you want to get a minute or two of this? I'm sure somebody out there can benefit from this. You can get it almost down with the plane, the great little plane that we had on the earlier video. This is the master ass screw guy, and he is good.
Props might not be the best, but the tools are great.
Yeah. Yeah, this works great. Gotta know how to fix things because everybody has these little accidents. This, by the way, I'll bet you'll take the finish right off the flaps. And you want to take some finish off the flaps?
Well, it takes the wood too.
So what? Take the shit right off. And block sand it down. Once you get through the finish, you can block sand
You can
it
set
right
the blade a little thinner for that, too.
Yeah, you can set the blade down. Let me block sand this down. We got a block. We got some 220.
Well, you were talking about taking weight off, Carlos. These
Yeah.
fellas are taking
Oh,
it
yeah.
off for you.
Oh, yeah, this can
No
go right
fool
on.
around.
Paint, wood. They may take the controls out of it for you, too.
Want some holes in the belt crank? Sick of that 1-to-1 ratio you've been using?
Yeah. That's the same belt crank as you have there.
Didn't break, did it?
Not yet.
You don't ever want to use the competitors' belt cranks. Oh my God. Ask Tom Hampshire about them, how they break. Holy God.
What happened?
Okay, you're in great shape. Now you leave the dust there. Don't take the dust off. You know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Not
Leave
going
it
with the
up.
thin.
Leave the dust there. Don't get it any thinner. Let's make sure it's not too thin. This is a tip everybody can use. Everybody.
Yeah.
Has pizza on it.
That pizza won't hurt. That's a lot better than a silk span patch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Believe me. And it's right where it'll be if the thing breaks again. So now you could, you have a pattern already made.
Are you saying that the way Carlos flies this plane is going to break again?
No,
Wait a
Carlos
minute.
he'll never have that problem again. He's a man that learns ahead of time.
Perfect.
On
Take
that
some-
note, I'm going to turn the video off. This is getting a little thick.
Let me take the macro lens on that. Take the macro lens. Now, let's see. 2-3 minutes and you got a perfect patch and a foam wing. Block sand it out, tissue over it. Absolutely perfect. You want to take some more paint? Let's take that. Where's that blade? Lighten up the blade. I bet we could strip those flaps right down to bare wood in 5 minutes.
Need a screwdriver.
Anybody wants to refinish, I'm sure there's a million people who want to refinish out there. Boy, this is the hot tip for refinishing. Set the blade for a very thin cut. I wonder if this would take fiberglass cloth off. You know what it is? You got nice wood here. It's nice soft wood. It's coming off right down to the wood almost. Now, if you want to get the last little bit, we're going to have to turn the flaps like that. Now watch how this comes off. I'll bet Borelli's saying, hey, that's easy, man.
Well,
Why didn't I think of that?
when I was trying to do Black Monday, that would have...
Here's your finish, guys. Have a plane that's too heavy, take all the finish and about 30% of the wood off. Now, granted, this makes the flaps a little bit thinner. So you got to go back now and resand everything. I bet Master Ascrew ought to start sponsoring me. Look at this. You know you didn't put enough paint under the...
Enough dope, no. That's why.
Get the edge caught and then just work your way right down. It'll come right off.
But it's not denting the wood or anything, right?
No.
It's not grooving it or...
You don't even have to sand that. Are you kidding me?
Beautiful.
Look at this. I mean, there's no wood on the back of the paper. Figure that out. That's how you take a finish off a plane. You want to refinish a plane? Bypass all that sandpaper nonsense. Wendy's videos. Do it again.
I know. Mirror, well, this stuff is super light.
This is double O tissue. We're trying to give Brian a little lesson here on how to tissue a tail.
For the air exits, I had some pictures of...
We're all watching Walt Russell's Cardinal fly on the screen there. By the way, thanks a lot for the video, Walt. Say hello to the kids. Like their cover, their picture on the cover of Stunt News, too.
Before they had scoop.
That's the tsunami is like that.
No, before they had like a scoop on the bottom.
All right, we're just going to get him to cut out all the pieces and going to give him a lesson in doing one. And we'll see if he can do some tissuing tonight.
What?
Get it good and wet before you put the tissue on? Just drop the tissue right on.
Make sure you got it along the trailing edge pretty good. The trailing edge, right along here. I want to see that a little wet. Right in here.
There you go. Okay, way to go. Now just drop the tissue in nice and straight. All right. Doesn't matter wrinkles. You're going to pick it up and just drop it back down.
You gotta put some
Always work from the center out.
All right. Use your bare hands. Work from the center out. Pull out all the wrinkles. There you go. Rub it right down with your bare hands. Nice and easy. All right. Get a coat of dope on there right away. Go, man. Go. Put it on. Don't worry about it. Brush marks. Just go. Paint it on. Jimmy's been working up some custom paint jobs. Where are those sketches, Jim? Telstar. What's the other one?
I only have some losers.
The losers in the Jimmy paint job. Oh man, I have made something look like Barber poles, toilet paper wrappers, Captain Crunch. Oh man, let's see the other one.
You notice I've got a lot of yellow paint.
Yeah, use up that yellow paint, man. If Busso does it, it's got to be okay, right? Oh my God, come on, let's see. Is he? There you go. Pull it from the middle out. You have
Always work
wrinkles.
from the center.
Just pull it
Center
out.
out.
There you go. Hey, this is
Center
not
out.
hard stuff to do.
Center out.
There you go.
All right, looks good. Just let the dope set up just a little bit.
Let it set up a little bit, then get that razor. I made up that double. Where's that razor?
Right here.
Take that razor and just trim it up, and we're ready to go to the, well, we could do the stab next, too. What a session last night. Last night's session really was unbelievable. We had a great time. But now we want to get ready to set up to build this wing. Now what I'm doing, I'm trying to sight down the table, and I'm going to try to put this on a video. And what I do is I kind of sight it from every possible angle down this table, check it with a long straight edge, whatever, and shim the table with IBM cards. Now, every table, of course, if you're using a hollow door, you do it a different way. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can shim it with paper, newspaper. IBM cards are good. What you have to start with is a perfectly flat table, perfectly flat work surface if you want to build a wing on rods. There's no way you can build a straight wing if the table is crooked. Now in this case, I've just been looking down this table real quickly, and I've noticed it's from moisture, and from whatever reason down here this table is not perfectly flat. So what I'm going to do is, again, just like I showed on the wow, this thing is awful by a lot. I got to put some cards up under here. What I do is get out some IBM cards. If you don't have IBM cards, newspaper is fine. And I'll spend 10-15 minutes shimming this. Now on some of the other videos, a lot of times you can do this by eye real easy. It's still out a little bit. It's out by, actually by more than 2 IBM cards. And you just have to kind of go back and forth. But getting it accurate, unless you have a granite machinist table, you just have to go back and forth, do it by eye. If you don't have an accurate eye, you can buy, Scott Smith on his video shows a 48-inch, I think it is, a steel machinist ruler that's real flat, or you can take string, real fine string like dental floss, and you do the corners and then measure the middle. If the middle has a gap, a bow. But the best way I know of is by card. So I'll do the rest of this. This takes a good 15 minutes, and I'll shim this all up wherever it's low and get this ready to go. And of course, one of the other things to really do at this point in time, get every little bit of hot stuff, CA, dope, whatever, cleaned off the table. We really want to start with a perfectly level, perfectly clean table, and when I'm all done, I'll do it off camera. I'll wipe this with acetone, and then finally with Windex, so I have a perfectly clean work surface to lay my plans on. I'm going to take the 48-inch T-square, which is usually pretty level. Check this in a lot of different ways. Mostly along the trailing edge, the leading and trailing edges. Now you can see how many cards. I've got a different amount of cards under here. There's about 7 down there, 5 here, 4 here. The table kind of slants down that way. The reason is the table overhangs the dresser underneath it, and what happens is it's actually truer in toward the middle here than it is out at the end. The flattest part of the table is right here. So what I'm going to do now is cut up the plans and try to use the flattest part of the table, which is right over the dresser. Keep in mind this is a hardwood, probably 150-pound table, and about a 100-pound piece of glass. So in time it starts to droop down, and you have to constantly monitor it with the IBM cards. All right, with that in mind, I want to show one other cute thing. Almost impossible for me to build any kind of wing without. This is Walt Russell's tool that he sent me. He calls it the windy gauge, windy centerline gauge. You loosen this screw and you can raise this up and down, and you can walk this around a wing to check the center lines. This you can make yourself, or you can use, before I had this, I just used a machinist ruler. If you don't have a machinist ruler, you can take a piece of plywood and a piece of tape and mark the center line and walk that around. But this is just one of the tools, and comes in so handy. Once you have one, you never want to live without it. Mention that before we actually start. I hope you're picking up some good information off of this. We've had, the last night was just an incredibly good night with everybody over here. Everybody helping each other. It was real nice. I'll try to get the plans over into the flat part of the table, and I like to get the plans as close to the edge of the table as possible. This way I don't have to lean over to work on the wing while I'm working on it. Now I like to trim off all the edges of the IBM cards just so it makes the work area a little neater. Clean these all up. Kind of make a mental note where this table is starting to go out of center. So in the future, when I see these IBM cards, I know the table is drifting this way. It'll be a lot easier to make the correction. It took me quite a while to get this real level. But once you get it level, you'll get a perfect wing. If you don't have a real level table, the wing is only going to be as level as the table. Another thing to remember too is we built these wings a lot of different ways on video. We made the box construction, Cardinal Sin, foam wings, but the rod method to me is still the most reliable, easiest, most doable way of doing a wing. Okay, I'm going to get the rest of the parts I need ready here. Oh, another thing, I was thinking about this last night. Since Joe Adamusco contributed the ribs to this project airplane, to Strega, I don't have anywhere on the video the making of a set of ribs. I'm going to dig through the old videos later today, try to find that video where we actually made the ribs. I think it's in 92 or 93. It's a very short segment, and we'll put that on this set of tapes so that somebody watching this set of tapes will at least have that as a reference. It'll all be in one package then. Instead, a lot of the new subscribers don't have the tapes going back to 91 and 92. And this way you'll have it all the wing construction things will be in one little group on the tapes. Here's these stacks of ribs that Joe made. Now one of the things I'm going to have to do, see there's no notches for the spar. I have to get my templates out and lay out the spar notches. That's the next step. Now the reason I guess he didn't do it is one of the things you always want to have when you line up the spar notches, you want to have the spar notch nice and straight. So what we have to do is unstack the ribs. Maybe I'll show this on video, but first I want to show why am I doing this out of sequence. Let's dig out that little footage that shows the actual cutting of a set of ribs, and that's from a couple of years ago when we did one of the built-up wings with the rod method. That'll be the next footage on here. I remember a while back, hard to remember how far back it was, we were talking about making a set of built-up ribs from scratch. In this case, what we're going to do is make a set of ribs from, this is a Cardinal foam wing template, and what we want to do, you can see what I've done already off camera, is lay a piece of masking tape just so the pen will ride a little smoother on it. Put a nice center line down, center line each side, and now of course I want to line up each center line and trace this out on a, this is a piece of 16th plywood, SIG plywood, and I want to create a wing template and a root template from this foam wing. This foam wing will actually be the cradle that I'll be using, so I want to make it from the wing that I'm using. I don't want it to be that I use a cradle for one and then make the templates from another one. I want the cradle and the templates from the same wing. And it's a little time consuming getting the center line exactly where you want it. Again, you could be doing this from plans, and this is basically the intent of this is just to show you. Now the idea of the tape around it is so that the pen slides very smooth and easy. If you don't have the tape, it tends to tear it. Again, I'm just being real fussy here. I really want to make a nice, to start, this will be for this year's wing. I want to make an accurate set of templates here. Another trick that you can use to your advantage is, and this is a Sanford fine line pen. It makes a line about half the thickness of a ballpoint pen, so that may help you get thinner, more accurate lines instead of the wider lines that normally you get from a, and I've gone back and forth over this about 3 times. Oh, after all that work, the back didn't come out as well as I'd like. Okay, no big deal. Make sure we're on center line. What happened, I don't have the tape exactly lined up the way I really should. Now all that does is give us a rough outline to work from for the first piece. And we're going to be doing the root first. Okay, next step is going to be that we're going to lay out the 1/4-inch square. A little notch we're going to need in the front for the 1/4-inch square. Then we're going to want to see where, taking a ruler, a flexible ruler, I want to see where 3½ inches of sheeting is going to wind up. And put a dot here. That's where I'm going to want to have the spar. Now what I'm going to do is just put a reference line, and this is the reference line for the 1/4-inch square. Okay, once you have that, then you can just turn the triangle around, get an alignment on it, and now you can get the other half of it. And that gives you 4 90-degree angles, and this will line up our 2 squares. And once you have that line, that's giving you a 90-degree line. 3½ inches is the line. We want to be at the high point. The whole purpose is we want to be right at the high point. Now we want to measure out for 2 more 1/4-inch squares. Again, a relatively easy job. We can measure off a 1/4 inch, another 1/4 inch, put an imaginary line in there. Let's put a real light imaginary line. Then measure down a 1/4 inch. Now before we actually carve these in, we want to carve these in with a 1/4 inch piece of wood. We don't want to make these oversized. Making them oversized is a real problem. We want them to be on the tight side, 1/4 inch square, so that we can get some 1/4 inch square spar material right in there. So now you have your 90-degree. You also have a reference line. Now you can plot exactly where, and they'll be in direct alignment here. This is going to be for the gear clips. Everything's going to reference off of that line. The belt crank mount. Now the trick with cutting these out is to leave the pen line on, so they're a little bit oversized. Trick number 2, a brand new blade. Brand new. And we want to get all the notches in, a little oversized. Then we're going to take a piece of 1/4 inch, glue sandpaper to it, and get the final contour in with a sanding block. Again, most important that we have the center line, we have the reference for the 90-degree, 3½ inches back from the leading edge. This will reference our gear position, our clips that'll hold the gear in the wing. And then we want to do a mirror imaging. Remember, I just did that earlier on in the video, so I guess if you need to go back, just go back and reference it. Now you can see this is on the macro lens. You can see we've actually left we've left the line on. We're going to go right up with a sanding block up to that point. Now we'll notch these out a little undersized and then finalize them with a sanding block. Getting the notches right is probably the most difficult part of this whole job. Okay, now the next step, we have one of those sanding shapers, sandpaper glued to wood, and we want to just sand off the ink line. Don't forget, the ink line has made the part oversized by the thickness of the ink line, and especially if you use the real wide pen, all we want to do is just take the ink line off. Okay, now to do a mirror image, we have the template roughed out, we have the line sanded off. This is a test. We put, again, a narrow line pen. We take the template this way, line up the center line. I can see already with my eye this is a little bit off. It's off the thickness of a pen line. And what I want to do is just, with a thin line pen again, trace this out. Now I take and do a mirror image of it, reverse it. I have to transfer the center line onto this side. I have to transfer the center line onto the other side right now. Make sure I can see the center line. Okay, now what this mirror imaging does is if you get one side of the template with a different curve than the other by, I guess, by an unusual amount. Now, what I can see right here is that we're on the thinner of the two sides this way. We're thinner by about, let's see if we can do this on a macro lens. Now, if you see up here, these are the real accurate. As we get down here, this is the smaller side, and then it tapers right back in. Okay, can you see that? Now, it's good that we have one that's not... Well, let's get a little closer. You can see how much it's off. So what we're going to do is take the high side. If this was any more than that, that's actually 2 pen lines. We're going to take the high side and make it thinner until we get both sides equal. Now we can see right here the amount that we're out. So what I'll do is I'll draw another line around this one, and then we can see how much we're actually out here. And we're out the thickness maybe of 2.5 pen lines just behind the spar. So now we'll take the bigger of the two sides, again referencing off the center line. This is the smaller of the two sides, this is the bigger of the two sides. And this takes a little time to do the mirror imaging, but once you get the theory of it, the idea, and you have to really be accurate because you're dealing in small amounts here. I'm just trying to pick up exactly where I want to sand this off. It's right about in the center. That side is real accurate. This side is low. So you can see it's almost exactly that we don't have all the line off of this. Now this is kind of a time-consuming thing, so we won't do too much of it on video. It's just going back. That's why I had to have a cup of coffee while I was getting this lined up. Okay. Again, it's a good idea if you put a center line on both sides of the template, or a reference line more than a center line. Okay, and take a little bit, maybe a half a pen line off here. Half a pen line and we'll have it. This is an important thing though. Once you understand or have a concept of how to do this, you can make any wing from any set of plans, make any set of root and template ribs. Now I'm guessing right now, I'm gonna thicken this line up now because I'm closing in on having this as accurate as I want it. Now I can see another little inconsistency here is that I don't have the spar cut equally. One side is bigger than the other. So I'll true that up also, the same system. Now that side's real good. This side's a little, still on the thin side. Still on the thin side. Now when you get down to the last little bit, you can see I've taken a saw blade and put a little notch on each end. And what that does, when you get down to the last little bit, now you can see, you can get it in to like halves and thirds of a pen line. It also serves as a double check that you haven't walked your center line from one side of the template to the other. And I'm guessing right now that's about as accurate as we're going to expect this to be. Okay, now what we're going to do is, I will do it off camera of course, is we'll do the same thing with the tip. We'll tape the foam, make the template for the tip and the root, and then we'll start lining them up and going through the thing of making the ribs. Now once you get this mirror imaging on here real nice and neat, now a final thing you can do is just at random spots, maybe every 2 or 3 inches, we'll put some dots on the template and draw some 90-degree reference lines. And this again, this is just a double check. This is to double check your work. Make sure you have accurate templates. It may seem like this has taken an awful long time, and this is why I've gone about it in great detail. Believe me, once you make one set of accurate templates, you can make 1,000 wings off it. If the templates are wrong, there's a lot of ways of making these. Once the templates are wrong, they're junk, and then every wing is wrong. So what you're looking for right now is a lot of different ways that you can double check that you have everything above the center line is exactly a mirror image of what's below the center line. And this is just one way of testing it. Now what you do is you divide the whole thing into quadrants. And this may seem like overkill, but when you see a plane pull out of a wing over nice and flat, you know the templates were right. Now what we're going to do is, at each quadrant here, we're going to, and I'm trying to do this and hold the camera, so give me a little bit of a break. I'm going to measure with a micrometer and transpose that amount. Now you could do this with a compass if you didn't have a micrometer. Easy to do this off camera. What I'm going to do is measure each one right at the line. 941. 941. So that side is accurate. I'm going to reference off of the center line again. $122. $122. I'm going to reference this at several stations. Now, if you want to be even more accurate, and I don't think you have to be this accurate, another way of making this even more accurate, and it was an old Joe K trick. This was an old Joe K. Let me just get a pin here. I remember Joe making me up some templates one time and using this trick. Put the pin right on the center line. I don't know why we didn't do this in the beginning. Because I don't have a memory anymore at my age. Okay, now you use the edge of the pin, and it gives you 179. This side is bigger by about 10 thousandths. Okay, so we know which side we have to sand. Again, we'll get this right on the center line. And this may seem like a little bit of overkill, but boy, once you have the templates right, you can just make wing after wing after wing. Okay, now you can get the idea. If you want it to be super accurate, you could, again, put more quadrants in. For our purposes, this will do. Now, all the measuring in the world isn't worth anything if you don't even up the templates. You know, it's great to be able to measure things accurately, but it's even greater if you can get the template perfect. And now we're doing it in swipes of sandpaper. Again, if you're patient, spend a few hours. This will be really a good investment in your wing over pull-out. Oh, we got it within about 5 thousandths now. Now, another little trick that'll help you is draw an extended line with a 45-degree triangle. Okay, and then you can reverse image, mirror image, and make sure you have that on exactly on the angle you're looking for. And just keep after it. I also suggest make it just a little bit undersized too. You're always better off a little bit undersized. Now after you get them perfect, what I like to do is just dress off the edges a little bit here. I stamp my name and address on them, so when people borrow it, they tend to remember, and of course most of them never come back. These templates get loaned out to people all the time who keep them for a year or two, which is the reason I'm making new ones right now. Maybe I'll keep these, I won't loan them out. Anyway, if you're doing a built-up wing, you might want to just borrow my templates, and of course we can always arrange that. Never a problem. Okay, I'm just dressing this off. Mark what wing it is, what the date is, and then we'll just go off camera now and make the tip. Now we have the two templates, of course, and just one final test. Laid them up on the wing. Check the root, check the tip. Now, another thing I just want to mention on a video is Joe Adamusco has that great method that he uses. I think it's on the Stunt Forum tape, the 93 Stunt Forum. Oh, that's as accurate as it gets. Where he makes a half a template, carves it, then turns it over. Now what we're going to do, look at this cord here. What we're going to do is, tomorrow, it's getting too late, we're going to cut the wood, stack the ribs, carve them. After we're done carving them, we're going to take the templates, leave the wood alone, turn them upside down so that they'll both be to the smaller size. It'll make for a better interchangeability. Okay, so this is it for tonight. We're just going to clean up. This was an afternoon, part of an afternoon's work. Tomorrow we'll drill the holes, sight them all out, get the ribs cut, carved, and sanded, and by tomorrow night we should have some ribs. Now tonight what I did, I only had an hour tonight, I took the 2 pieces of threaded rod that I'm going to use to confine these together, and what I'm going to do is use blind nuts reversed. Now, we've done this in the past with 3/8 bolts and with anything, but it's just convenient. This, I'm sorry, this is 632 rod. And the big blind nuts. Now, the object of the big blind nuts is when you, and I want to emphasize this in case I forget, that it's a super tight fit. That's a tight fit as it goes through the template. Now it gives a nice resting surface on there. It's not pinching and bending and whatever. I also marked up the templates, if you can see how I have them. I lined up the spar. This is a 3-inch gap here, 3.5 here for the sheeting, so there'll be a 1/2-inch taper in the sheeting. Then I just tack glued these on center line so that I can drill the holes. And the trick is to drill one hole, make sure it's on center, put the rod in, then go drill a second hole. That means they'll both be in very good alignment. At that point in time, your spars will line up. You'll have a little taper here and a lot of taper at the trailing edge. And then what we'll do is we'll just trim each one off at the trailing edge as necessary. I also took a red ink marker and marked bottom to bottom so that I know which one. What I'm going to do after I carve these is, and it's kind of like a takeoff on Joe Adamusco's thing. When I'm done carving them, I'm going to take these and reverse them so that now the red side becomes the other side, the top becomes the bottom, and I get all the low spots off, hoping that that'll make them nice and even. Now, what I also did off camera, I went through about 1,000 sheets of balsa wood here and took out about 3 times the amount I'm normally going to need, because I want to look through these for sea grain. Of course, I want to take out the sea grain, and I have some balsa wood in here that's not quite full sheets, has chunks taken out of it, and I want to weigh it all up. Some of it's weighed, some of it isn't. I'm going to weigh it all up off camera so that I can get the lightest pieces on the inboard wing. Obviously, the lightest piece will be out at the tip, we hope. And then going to the heaviest piece down at the other end. And these sheets go from their 36 by 3 by 16th. They go from about 9 grams up to 12.5, so that when we get to the outer tip, we'll be into the 12.5 wood. That'll be the theory of getting that done. Again, we're going to do that tomorrow. I didn't get much done today other than finalizing the fit on the templates, and then we're going to hopefully tomorrow, and I said that yesterday, hopefully tomorrow, bingo, we're going to make ribs. So what I always do is I always make some little notes on these templates. First off, I put what year it is and my name and address so that people who borrow these, again, of course, they never give them back. I also just made a rough mark where this bell crank is going to end. It's a 4 1/4 inch throw to the end of the bell crank. Give me some rough dimensions, so when I start cutting out and lining up the ribs on the foam, I know pretty much where the bell crank is going to be. Now what I did this morning off camera, I sorted out the wood, and in this case I'm going to take out the pieces that are the heavier and set them up. I want to put them in sequence here so that the heaviest ones are on the out. Okay, now we have 2 piles, the inboard wing, the outboard wing. I want to look down the grain. I want to see get the one that has the straightest grain. It looks like this one here. This will be the root. You can usually squeeze each part of the wood and see which is the stiffest. Now this wood is a lot stiffer down at this end than this end. So what I'll do is I'll make the root rib out of the stiffest part of the wood. And I'm going to try to get the center line for the first one right down. Right down the center. Now you don't want to put the center line so deep into the wood that it splits. And again, I want to take the biggest. This is the root template, the biggest one. And just make me some oversized blanks here. Now I can see. You can see how I'm lining up the center line so I can drill the holes through there. And then I'll cut this oversized so I can cut a lot of this off ahead of time. And I'm just going to be making up blanks, and I'm making them all to the biggest root rib. And we're going to need 30 blanks for this job, 15 per panel. Now the idea is to try to get as much of the wood off as we possibly can, just to make the carving as easy as possible. So, just to get an idea of how the blanks would be. Now obviously I'll make up 30 of these, just go right through the wood. Then the next step is I'm going to have to drill holes in each piece. Now what I like to do, I've taken a piece of 1/8 inch wire and take it on a grindstone and get it to a nice razor point and radius off the other end. Now, as I line up the center lines here, I can actually use the tip of this to catch the center line. Make sure I have the other end lined up. Press it right through. Now what that does, now that 1/8 inch wire is a tight fit for 632 rod. So what you have is a nice tight fit. You're not going to have these guys all sloppy and drooping off and drooling. Alright, obviously I got to make 29 more of these. I'll do that off camera and we get on with it. Okay, we decided to make 16 ribs because we haven't settled on what we're going to do out at the tip yet, so we'll make the extra rib just in case. We have 16 blanks now, and what we'll do is I'll go through each one of these and check each one, and in other words, I'll try to do this in a methodical way. See which is the stiffest. Again, you don't want to press that center line in or they split right in the middle. See which ones are the stiffest. Put the stiffest ones in at the root. Oh, that's a nice stiff one. Put that one up at the root. And I'll kind of stack them. Again, this all may sound like a lot of extra work, but when you build a plane that this is a nice one too, that your plane is going to last, 6, 7, maybe 10 years, well, it pays to put the little extra. There's another good one. Okay, so you get 2 or 3 good ones in, right where the fuselage, that's a soft one. Put that out at that end. Stiff, that'll go up at this end. If you're a real fanatic, you'd probably weigh each one and put the heavy ones. This one's the best one on the pal. Okay. All right, so the next step is we'll cut the other side out as long as we're in cutting mode here. Cut them out and then stack them together and start the carving. Okay, now what we did, I bolted together all of the, we have 30 altogether, actually 32. We decided to put 16 ribs in each wing. Put all of them together, so then what I'll do is I'll take out every other one and make one panel and the other panel. They'll for all purposes be the same. But I want to take every other one. This gives me less of an angle to cut all my tapers in. Now what I did, after I put them together, I took a Zona saw and just lopped off the front. I was doing this off camera here. I didn't want to put too much of this on. It's very time consuming. This probably take an hour to cut this all down. Maybe you can see it up close. This side's all rough. This side I trimmed out already. And you want to take a Zona saw and find the templates top and bottom. Leave it a little oversized, in fact. And just lop off the back. Just to give you an idea, now this is in its very rough form. This is very, let's get this up close where you can see it. Maybe this will be kind of self-explanatory here as we're in this rough stage. This is the side I haven't shaved on yet. This side is kind of rough. Now we'll get it down to where it's, and obviously we want to use like a number 26 blade, get it down to where it's within about a 32nd of an inch, and then we'll block sand the final amount in there. And you can see if you just shave it, just take shavings, you can see how tiny they come off in very small pieces. Don't worry about any of the notches at this time. Just do the light cutting. Get them all bent down nice and even. You're going to get your best result when you just shave it. Very little pieces. Don't try to take a big chunk off at any given time. Very slow, very easy. Again, I'll work this side up. This side I haven't started yet. And then we'll get into putting the notches in. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would... Now I'm just finalizing the fit in with the block. A nice wide block, some 100 grit. And you have to be real careful now that you're not making a bow out of the top of this. You really want to make sure you sand right into both templates at the same time. I've got this side finished, and you can see the block touches all of the ribs. You want to sand right into the templates. You don't want to have a bow or a hump there. So again, this is just going to take some time. And you just got to be willing to pay the price and breathe some sawdust here. We're closing in on having our ribs. Again, as you do them, take a...
Could I speak to you before class about the Odyssey?
Of course. Huh? If you want to take that donut off my hands, by the way, be my guest. I gave up coffee for New Year's, and it's kind of taking the point out of donuts. What's up?